I'm Victoria, 34, and my parents just tried to publicly erase my daughter from our family history. Before I tell you about the moment their faces turned the color of dirty snow, let me know where you're tuning in from in the comments. I read every single one. You know that feeling when you walk into a room, and the air instantly feels thinner. That's how it felt walking into the Crystal Ballroom at the country club for my parents' 40th anniversary. It wasn't just a party, it was a coronation. My parents, Richard and Eleanor, have always believed that perception is reality. If you look rich, you are rich. If you act perfect, you are perfect. Tonight, they were pulling out all the stops. Parked right at the front entrance, under the spotlight of the portico, was a Rolls-Royce Ghost. It was sleek, silver, and utterly intimidating. I knew for a fact my father was leasing it, probably stretching his monthly budget to the breaking point just to have that RR emblem greet his guests, but to everyone else, it screamed established power. I tightened my grip on my daughter Lily's hand. She was 12, wearing a blue dress she'd picked out herself, her hair braided carefully to hide the nervous sweat on her neck. She was holding her phone, eyes wide, taking in the chandeliers and the waiters circulating with champagne trays. "Mom," she whispered, "do you think Grandma will like my dress?" My chest ached. "She'll love it, sweetie," I lied. We hadn't even made it to our table before the first blow landed. My sister, Jessica, was already there, holding court. Jessica is 3 years older than me and the living embodiment of everything my parents wanted. She married Mark, a hedge fund manager, drives a Porsche Cayenne, and has Chloe, the 13-year-old golden child. Chloe was pirouetting near the buffet table, wearing a custom-made silk dress that probably cost more than my first car. My mother, Eleanor, was beaming at her, clapping her hands together like she was watching a Broadway show. Then she saw us. The smile didn't disappear, but it changed temperature. It went from warm sunlight to fluorescent office lighting. "Victoria," my mother said, leaning in for an air kiss that didn't touch my skin. "You made it. And you brought the little one." She looked down at Lily. Lily smiled, holding up her phone. "Hi, Grandma. Happy anniversary. I'm going to record the speeches for you, for memories." My mother didn't hug her. She reached out and adjusted a strap on Lily's dress, her touch critical, not affectionate. "Oh, memories. That's sweet. Just try to stay out of the frame, okay? The photographer is trying to capture the professional aesthetic tonight." She turned to a waiter passing by. "More sparkling cider for Chloe, she's thirsty from all that talent." My father, Richard, walked up then. He looked distinguished in his tuxedo, holding a scotch. He glanced at Lily, then at her phone. "Careful, sweetheart," he said, his voice booming enough for the nearby guests to hear. "Try to keep up tonight, all right? Don't get confused." Lily's smile faltered. "I won't, Grandpa." "We'll see," he chuckled, winking at a business associate standing nearby. "One's the sharp tack, the other's, well, she's sweet." I felt a fire ignite in my stomach. I wanted to grab a glass of wine and throw it on his tuxedo shirt. But I didn't. I couldn't. Not yet. I had to wait. I squeezed Lily's hand. "Let's get our seats." We were seated at table 4. Not table 1 with the immediate family. Table 4. With my father's old golfing buddies and a cousin, Aunt Renee, who is known for having a glass of wine too many and spilling family secrets. "Victoria." Aunt Renee squawked, waving a breadstick. "Doesn't Chloe look like an angel? I heard she's already looking at prep schools. Ivy League track, your mother says." "She's 13, Renee," I said stiffly. "Never too early," Renee said, leaning in, her breath smelling of Merlot. "And how is Lily doing in that school? The one for the slower kids?" "It's a specialized school for creative learning," I corrected, my voice sharp. "And she's doing great." Lily shrank into her chair. She opened her phone and started scrolling through her camera roll, just trying to disappear. Then the lights dimmed. It was showtime. A projector screen descended from the ceiling. Music swelled, something classical and triumphant. A slideshow began. Slide 1, Chloe holding a trophy. Slide 2, Chloe at ballet recital. Slide 3, Chloe getting a ribbon at a horse riding camp. Slide 4, Jessica and Mark standing in front of their new house. Slide 5, my parents with Chloe. It went on for 20 slides. It was a shrine to my sister's branch of the family. And then, finally, one picture of Lily appeared. It was blurry. She was mid-sneeze, eyes half closed, mouth open awkwardly. It was a candid shot from a barbecue 2 years ago. The room chuckled. A ripple of polite, amused laughter. My father took the microphone, basking in the spotlight. Thank you all. 40 years. It's a long time to build a legacy. He put an arm around my mother. They looked the picture of success. Tonight isn't just about looking back, he said, his voice dropping to that serious, boardroom tone. It's about securing the future. As many of you know, Eleanor and I have done well. We've built assets. We've secured the family estate. He gestured to the room, to the life they had built. We want to make sure that hard work goes to the hands that can manage it. Hands that are capable. Minds that are sharp. My stomach dropped. I knew they favored Chloe. I knew they looked down on me. But I didn't think they would do this. Not here. Not in front of everyone. My mother took the mic. Her smile was blinding. We are so proud to announce that we have finalized our estate planning. The family trust, currently valued at $280,000, and the deed to the family home, she paused for effect. The room held its breath. Will be inherited in full by our granddaughter, Chloe. Applause. Loud, raucous applause. Jessica feigned surprise, covering her mouth, while Mark patted her back smugly. Chloe beamed, waving like a princess. My mother wasn't done. She looked directly at our table. Directly at Lily. All of it, she said, her voice dripping with faux sweetness. To ensure it is protected. Lily is not included. We need to be realistic about abilities, and we want to make sure the family wealth isn't squandered by confusion. My father leaned back into the mic, delivering the final blow. Exactly. We love all our family, but let's be honest. One's the genius and the other one's the dumb one. The room erupted in laughter. Not polite laughter this time. Genuine, relieved laughter, the kind people make when they are glad they aren't the target. Lily dropped her phone. It clattered against the china plate. Her face was bright red. She looked at me, eyes swimming with tears she refused to shed. Mom, she mouthed. The air left my lungs. I looked at my parents on that stage, smug, powerful, untouchable. They thought they had won. They thought they had just written the final chapter of our lives. But they forgot one thing. They forgot who I was raised by. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I felt a cold, hard clarity settle over me like a suit of armor. I picked up Lily's phone. I checked that it was still recording. Then I stood up. The scraping of my chair against the floor was loud in the sudden lull of the applause. People turned. My mother's smile faltered just a fraction. My father frowned, annoyance flickering in his eyes. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of someone holding a grenade with the pin pulled out. Actually, I said, my voice projecting clearly across the silent room. My daughter was, my parents went pale. To understand why I stood up that night, you have to understand that this wasn't an isolated incident. My parents didn't just wake up that morning and decide to be cruel. They had been practicing for decades. In my family, love wasn't a given. It was a transaction. You paid for it with achievements. I grew up in the shadow of Jessica. Jessica was the cheerleader. Jessica was the valedictorian. Jessica was the one my father bragged about at the golf course. I was just Victoria. I got BS. I liked art. I was quiet. I remember when I was 16, asking my dad if I could have a car for a part-time job I wanted. Jessica had been given a new sedan on her 16th birthday. My father hadn't even looked up from his newspaper. Victoria, a car is a responsibility. Jessica earned hers. She represents this family well. You're still finding your footing. Take the bus. It builds character. Don't embarrass us became the soundtrack of my life. I swallowed it. I internalized it. I thought if I just worked harder, if I just married the right man, if I just became more, they would finally see me. But I didn't marry the right man. I married a kind man, an artist, who left when the pressure of providing became too much, fading out of our lives like a watercolor in the rain. So I became a single mom. To my parents, this was the ultimate failure. A divorcee. A struggle. And then there was Lily. When Lily was 7, the school called me in. She wasn't reading. She was guessing. She would look at a page of text and describe the pictures brilliantly, but the words were a jumbled code she couldn't crack. I had her evaluated. Dyslexia. It wasn't a tragedy. It was a neurodivergence. It meant her brain processed information differently. In fact, the specialist told me her spatial reasoning and creative problem-solving skills were off the charts. She was brilliant in her own way. I was relieved to have an answer. I went to my parents' house for dinner that Sunday, thinking they would be supportive. Dyslexia, my mother had said, wrinkling her nose as if I'd said Lily had lice. Are you sure she's not just lazy? It's not laziness, Mom, I explained, trying to keep my voice steady. Her brain is wired differently. My father took a sip of his wine. Well, intelligence skips a generation sometimes. Jessica's daughter, Chloe, is reading at a 5th grade level in the 2nd grade. Maybe you should ask Jessica what she's doing right. That was the beginning. Over the years, the comments became jagged little rocks they threw at us every holiday. Why buy her books? Buy her coloring crayons, that's more her speed. Lily, honey, let the adults talk, you might get confused. The worst was last Christmas. We were all gathered in the living room. Lily had made a card for everyone. She had worked on it for 3 days, painstakingly writing out a poem she had composed in her head. She stood up to read it. She stumbled on the word cherish. She paused, her brow furrowing, trying to decode the letters. Before she could sound it out, Chloe reached over and snatched the card from her hands. It says cherish, Lily, Chloe said, rolling her eyes. God, it's not hard. Then Chloe read the rest of the poem, loudly, perfectly, theatrically. My parents clapped. Bravo, Chloe, my mother cheered. See, that's what confidence looks like. Lily stood there, her hands empty, looking like she wanted the floor to open up and swallow her whole. She ran to the bathroom. I found her sitting on the edge of the tub, sobbing silently. She looked up at me, her eyes red and puffy. Mom, am I stupid? That question broke something inside me. It shattered the good daughter facade I had been maintaining for 30 years. No, I said fiercely, pulling her into my arms. You are not stupid. You are a genius. You see the world in 3D, while they only see it in flat text. You are not stupid. But I knew my words weren't enough to fight their poison. I needed backup. And that backup came from the most unexpected place, my great-grandmother Elena. Grandma Elena was my mother's mother, but she was nothing like her. She was sharp, observant, and she didn't care about Rolls-Royces or country clubs. She lived in a small, cluttered house filled with books and strange artifacts from her travels. She was the only one who really saw Lily. I used to take Lily to Grandma Elena's house on weekends to escape the pressure. Grandma Elena didn't force Lily to read out loud. She taught Lily how to bake. Baking is chemistry, Grandma Elena would say, watching Lily measure flour. And it's geometry. Look how you arranged those cookies on the sheet, Lily. Perfect spacing. You have an engineer's eye. Lily would beam. In that house, she wasn't the dumb one. She was the engineer. 8 months ago, Grandma Elena got sick. It happened fast. I spent every day by her bedside. My parents visited once, stayed for 20 minutes, complained about the hospital smell, and left to go to a gala. One afternoon, when Lily was at school, Grandma Elena grabbed my hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong for a dying woman. "They're doing it again, aren't they?" she rasped. "Who?" I asked. "Richard and Eleanor. They're treating that little girl the way they treated you. Like a stain on their perfect tablecloth." I looked down. "I can't stop them, Grandma. They have the money. They have the house. They have the power." Grandma Elena's eyes narrowed. "Money is a tool, Victoria. And tools can change hands." She pointed to her bedside drawer. "Call my lawyer. Mr. Sterling. After I'm gone. Do not tell your parents." "Why?" "Because," she whispered, pulling me closer. "I'm setting a trap. I promised myself I wouldn't let them ruin another generation. If they try to erase her, if they try to cut her out, you trigger the trap." "What trap?" I asked, terrified. She smiled, and for a second she looked young again. "The kind that snaps shut." She made me promise. "Promise me, Victoria. If they humiliate her publicly, if they try to leave her with nothing, you don't just take it. You fight." "I promise," I said. She died 3 days later. My parents staged a lavish funeral, crying loudly for the cameras, talking about how much they loved Mother Elena. I stood in the back, holding Lily's hand, thinking about the promise. Then, the silence. For months, nothing happened. My parents continued to live in the big family house, the house Grandma Elena had built. They continued to spend money from the family trust. They acted like they owned the world. I started to think maybe Grandma Elena had forgotten. Maybe there was no trap. Then, 2 weeks before the anniversary party, there was a knock on my door. It was a man in a charcoal suit. He held a thick black envelope sealed with red wax. "Ms. Victoria," he asked. "I'm Arthur Sterling. I believe you're expecting me." Mr. Sterling didn't look like the kind of lawyer you see on billboards. He looked like old money and serious consequences. He sat at my small kitchen table, the black envelope resting between us like a loaded weapon. "Your grandmother was a very specific woman," Sterling began, his voice gravelly. "She knew her daughter and son-in-law very well. She anticipated this exact scenario." He broke the seal. Inside were documents that smelled of old paper and ink. "This," he tapped a document, "is the restated trust of Elena Vance. Your parents believe they are the owners of the estate and the controllers of the funds. They are not." My heart hammered against my ribs. "They aren't." "No. They are trustees with a lifetime occupancy benefit. Basically, they are allowed to live in the house and manage the interest of the money, provided they adhere to certain moral clauses regarding the beneficiaries. The ultimate beneficiaries are the great-grandchildren. All of them." He pulled out a second sheet. It was highlighted in yellow. "This is the trigger clause. Your grandmother added this shortly before she passed. It states that if the current trustees, your parents, attempt to disinherit, humiliate, or publicly exclude any specific beneficiary based on ability, status, or malice, their status as trustees is immediately revoked. I read the words. They were legalese, but the meaning was clear. Public exclusion. Malice. If this happens, Sterling continued, locking eyes with me, the trust dissolves the current arrangement. The house is to be sold. The capital is to be split into protected subtrusts for the great-grandchildren directly. Your parents get nothing. No house. No allowance. Nothing. I sat back, stunned. It was a nuclear option. But Sterling warned, raising a finger. It requires proof. It cannot be hearsay. It has to be undeniable. A recorded statement. A written document. Something that holds up in court. He slid the papers back into the envelope and pushed it toward me. Keep this safe. If they cross the line, you call me. But be warned, Victoria. Once you pull this trigger, there is no going back. It's war. I hid the envelope in the back of my closet, behind my winter coats. I prayed I wouldn't have to use it. I wanted to believe my parents were better than that. I wanted to believe that deep down, they loved Lily enough not to destroy her. Then the invitation arrived. It was heavy cardstock, cream with gold foil lettering. Richard and Eleanor invite you to celebrate 40 years of excellence. Theme, our legacy and our future. Legacy and future. The words made my stomach churn. I knew what that meant. It meant Chloe. I almost didn't go. I almost called in sick. But then I looked at Lily. She was sitting on the floor, drawing a picture of a horse. She looked up and smiled. Mom, are we going to the party? I want to wear my blue dress. She wanted to be part of the family. She wanted to be seen. If I hid her away, I was confirming what they said, that she wasn't good enough to be there. I called my best friend, Sarah. You have to go, Sarah said when I told her about the invitation and the envelope. But you don't go as a victim. You go as a witness. I'm scared, Sarah. They are so big. And I'm just me. You're not just you, Sarah snapped. You're a mother protecting her cub. And listen to me, bring a camera. Or have Lily record. Tell her it's for memories. But you get everything on tape. If they step one toe out of line, you nail them. That night, I sat on the edge of Lily's bed. Hey Bug, I said softly. For the party tomorrow. I have a special job for you. Lily's eyes lit up. A job? Yeah. I want you to be the official videographer for our memories. I want you to record the speeches. Can you do that? Hold the phone steady, make sure you get Grandma and Grandpa clearly. Like a movie director, she asked. Exactly. Like a director. She hugged me. I won't let you down, Mom. The innocence in her voice made me want to weep. She thought she was helping capture a happy memory. She had no idea I was arming her for a legal battle. The day of the party, I dressed with purpose. No more shrinking. I put on a sharp black dress. I put the black envelope from Mr. Sterling into my purse. It felt heavy, radiating heat against my hip. As we drove to the country club, passing the manicured lawns and the gates, I felt a shift inside me. The fear was still there, but it was being replaced by something else. A cold resolve. I looked at Lily in the rearview mirror. She was practicing holding her phone up, checking the angles. Ready, sweetie? Ready, she chirped. I gripped the steering wheel. Please, I thought. Please don't make me do this. Please just be kind today. Just for once. But as we pulled up and I saw that Rolls-Royce parked out front like a silver beast guarding a dungeon, I knew. I knew peace wasn't on the menu tonight. Walking into that ballroom was like walking into a high-pressure chamber. The air smelled of expensive perfume, starch, and judgment. After the initial encounter with my parents, the helper comment, the sneer about Lily needing to keep up, my nerves were frayed. But I kept my hand on my purse. The envelope was there. The trigger. We moved through the crowd. It was a sea of successful people. Doctors, lawyers, business partners. People who viewed my father as a titan of industry. They had no idea he was living off his mother-in-law's trust fund, presenting it as his own hard-earned empire. My sister Jessica found us again near the dessert table. She was holding a glass of champagne, her other hand resting casually on the hood of a baby stroller belonging to a friend, as if posing for a catalogue. "Victoria," she said, her eyes scanning my dress. "Is that off the rack?" "It's cute." "Very brave." "It's just a dress, Jess," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Well, you look comfortable." "That's what matters," she smirked. "Did you see the rolls outside? Dad's thinking of upgrading to the Phantom next year. He says the Ghost is a bit pedestrian." I bit my tongue. "He doesn't own it," I wanted to scream. "The trust owns the lease." But I stayed silent. "And Mark just surprised me," Jessica continued, not waiting for a response. "He booked us a villa in Tuscany for the summer. We're taking Chloe for art appreciation. Real art, you know. Not just crayons." She glanced at Lily, who was happily filming a plate of macarons. "Hey, Lily," Jessica called out, her voice syrupy sweet. Lily turned, phone in hand. "Hi, Aunt Jessica." Jessica leaned down, bringing her face close to Lily's, ensuring the nearby guests could hear. "Maybe later, after the speeches, you can help the caterers clear the plates. I'm sure they'd give you a few dollars. It's good to learn the value of manual labor early, especially if, well, you know, academics aren't really your path." I saw the light dim in Lily's eyes. She lowered the phone. "Oh. Okay. I guess." That was it. That was the moment. The last shred of hesitation I had evaporated. Jessica wasn't just arrogant, she was cruel. She was actively teaching her daughter, and the world that my daughter was born to serve them. "She won't be clearing plates, Jessica," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "She's a guest. And she's your niece. Try to remember that." Jessica laughed, a tinkling, hollow sound. "Touchy, touchy. Just trying to be practical, Vicky." She breezed away to join the circle of admirers around Chloe. "Mom?" Lily whispered. "Is it bad to be a caterer?" "No, baby. It's honest work." But Aunt Jessica wasn't talking about work. She was trying to be mean. "Don't let her in." I tapped her chest. "Heart guard up." "Heart guard up," Lily repeated, a little mantra we had. The lights dimmed. The room hushed. The slideshow played. The laughter at Lily's sneeze echoed in my ears like a gunshot. Then my father stepped to the microphone. I watched him. I watched the way he adjusted his cufflinks. The way he surveyed the room like a king looking at his subjects. He loved this. He loved the control. My mother stood beside him, clutching her pearls, her eyes wet with fake emotion. "We have built this life," Richard boomed, brick by brick. "Liar," I thought. "Grandma built it. You just painted it gold." I checked Lily. She had the phone up. Her hands were shaking slightly, but she was recording. The red dot was blinking. Good girl, I thought. Capture it. Capture every lie. "And tonight," my father continued, "we ensure the legacy survives." I slipped my hand into my purse. My fingers brushed the wax seal of the black envelope. The texture was rough against my skin. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought the person sitting next to me could hear it. This was it. The point of no return. If they just gave the money to Chloe, I would have stayed seated. It would have hurt, but it was their right to be unfair. But I knew them. I knew they wouldn't just elevate Chloe. They had to crush Lily to do it. They needed the contrast. They needed the dumb one to make the golden child shine brighter. My mother took the mic. Lily is not included. The words hung in the air. My father's follow-up. One's the genius and the other one's the dumb one. The laughter. The world slowed down. I saw Lily's face crumble. I saw the shame wash over her. And in that moment the fear vanished. I wasn't Victoria the disappointment anymore. I wasn't the little sister who took the bus. I was the executioner. I stood up. The room was still chuckling as I stood. It wasn't a confident, swift movement. My knees knocked together. My hands trembled. But I stood. Actually, I said. My voice cracked on the first syllable, but I pushed through. My daughter was. I took a breath, channeling every ounce of rage I had suppressed for 30 years. I looked directly at the videographer hired by my parents, ensuring he was pointing that massive lens at me. My daughter was named a beneficiary, I projected, my voice steadying, ringing clear across the crystal glasses and silver cutlery. Of Grandma Elena's trust. The laughter died instantly. It was as if someone had sucked all the oxygen out of the room. My father blinked, confused. This wasn't in the script. Victoria, sit down. You're making a scene. The trust that owns this house, I continued, louder now, stepping away from the table. I reached into my bag and pulled out the black envelope. I held it up like a holy relic. The trust that holds the $280,000 you just tried to give away. My mother's face went from pale to gray. She recognized the envelope. She recognized the seal. Maya, sweetheart, she stammered, using a pet name she hadn't used in decades. You're confused. We can talk about this later. No, Mom. We're talking about it now. You wanted an audience, didn't you? I gestured to the stunned crowd. You wanted everyone to know who inherits the legacy. Well, let's tell them the truth. I ripped the envelope open. The sound was sharp, tearing through the silence. Grandma Elena knew, I said, walking slowly toward the center of the room. She knew you would try to cut Lily out. She knew you couldn't resist the urge to be cruel. Security, my father barked, his voice losing its polished baritone, rising into a panic. Get her out of here. 2 security guards stepped forward, but the guests murmured. This was too juicy. No one wanted it to stop. I have the deed here. I shouted, waving the document. And I have the amendment. Clause 4, Section B, the trigger event. I looked at Lily. She was still recording, her eyes wide as saucers. If the acting trustees, I read from the paper, my voice shaking with adrenaline, publicly humiliate, disinherit, or maliciously exclude any lawful beneficiary based on ability or status, their trusteeship is immediately revoked. I lowered the paper and looked at my father. Immediate revocation, Dad. That means as of 5 minutes ago, when you called my daughter the dumb one into a microphone, you lost control of the trust. You're lying. Jessica shrieked from her table, standing up. That's fake. Grandma wouldn't do that. It's signed by Arthur Sterling, I shot back. And it's recorded. Tonight is recorded. I pointed to Lily's phone. You said it. All of it. Lily is not included. You triggered the clause. My father gripped the podium. He looked like he was having a stroke. We were speaking generally. It was a figure of speech. Tell that to the lawyer, I said. Because I'm sending him the video tonight. My mother let out a small, strangled sob. The house is to be sold, I finished for her. Proceeds split 50-50 between the great-grandchildren. Lily gets her share. Chloe gets hers. You get nothing. The silence in the room was heavy, thick, and suffocating. It was the sound of an empire collapsing in real time. Aunt Renee, sitting at my table, let out a low whistle. Damn, she whispered. I turned to Lily. She looked terrified but also awestruck. She looked at me like I was Wonder Woman. Come on, Lily, I said, extending my hand. She grabbed it. We walked toward the exit. The path cleared for us. People stared, mouths open. I saw the envy in some eyes, the shock in others. As we reached the double doors, my father's voice rang out one last time, desperate and raw. Victoria. If you walk out that door, you are dead to us. You hear me? Dead. I stopped. I turned around slowly. The entire room waited. I looked at the man who had made me feel small my entire life. I looked at the woman who had mocked my daughter's disability. And I felt nothing. The fear was gone. The obligation was gone. Dad, I said, my voice calm, almost gentle. I've been dead to you for years. I just finally stopped attending the funeral. I pushed the doors open. The cool night air hit my face. It tasted like freedom. We walked to my beat-up Honda Civic, parked way in the back, far away from the leasing Rolls-Royce. Lily was quiet until we got into the car. Then, she looked at me. Mom? Yeah, baby. Did we just win? I started the engine. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely grip the wheel. Tears finally started to stream down my face, hot and fast. Yeah, Lily, I choked out, laughing through the tears. I think we just won. The drive home was a blur of adrenaline and streetlights. My heart was still racing at 100 miles an hour. Mom, your phone is buzzing, Lily said. It wasn't just buzzing, it was vibrating off the center console. Call from Mom. Call from Dad. Call from Jessica. Text from Jessica, you bitch. Text from Dad, answer the phone now. Don't touch it, I told Lily. In fact, turn it off. I pulled into a gas station parking lot. I needed to do one thing before the adrenaline wore off. Lily, send me the video, I said. Right now. AirDrop it. She tapped her screen. Sent. I opened the file. The audio was crisp. One's the genius and the other one's the dumb one. It was all there. The laughter. The cruelty. My rebuttal. I opened my email app. I composed a new message to Arthur Sterling. Subject, Trigger Event Confirmation, Vance Trust. I attached the video. I hit send. It felt like launching a missile. We got home, and I locked the deadbolt. I checked the windows. I felt like a fugitive. At 6:02 a.m. the next morning, my email pinged. It was Sterling. Receipt confirmed. The video is admissible. The triggering event occurred on record. Administrative steps have begun. Do not engage with them. Administrative steps. 2 boring words that meant my parents' lives were being dismantled. The harassment started at 7 a.m. My voicemail was full. My father left a message, his voice terrifyingly calm. Victoria, this is a misunderstanding. We were drunk. It was a roast. If you don't retract that email, you will regret it. We have lawyers too. I saved the voicemail. Evidence. By noon, things escalated. I was at work, trying to focus on a spreadsheet, when my cell rang. It was Lily's school. Ms. Victoria. It was Ms. Gable, the receptionist. Her voice was tight. I have your parents here. Mr. and Mrs. Vance. They say there is a family emergency, and they need to take Lily. My blood ran cold. The ice in my veins turned to absolute zero. They were trying to get to Lily. To manipulate her. To scare her. To kidnap her. Do not let them take her, I said, standing up so fast my chair tipped over. I am on my way. Call security if you have to. They are not on the list. They are insisting, Ms. Victoria. Your father is, raising his voice. I'm coming. I drove like a maniac. I ran 2 red lights. I didn't care. When I burst into the school lobby, the scene was chaotic. My mother was crying, fake, theatrical tears, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. My father was leaning over the reception desk, his face purple, pointing a finger at Ms. Gable. I am her grandfather. I paid for her braces. You have no right. Dad. I screamed. He spun around. You. He marched toward me. You ungrateful little, I stepped back, holding up my phone. I'm recording, Dad. Again. You want to add assault to the list. He stopped, chest heaving. You stole from us. You embarrassed us. I enforced Grandma's will, I said. What are you doing here? Trying to intimidate a 12-year-old. We just wanted to talk to her, my mother sobbed. To explain that Grandpa didn't mean it. You meant every word, I spat. You just didn't mean to get caught. I turned to Ms. Gable, who looked terrified but resolute. These 2 people are to be banned from the premises. If they come back, call the police immediately. Understood, Ms. Gable nodded. My father looked around. Parents were watching. Teachers were peeking out of classrooms. He realized he was losing again. He realized his power didn't work here. You're making a mistake, Victoria, he hissed, lowering his voice. You can't survive without us. You'll be destitute. I'd rather be poor than be you, I said. Get out. He glared at me with pure hatred. Then he grabbed my mother's arm. Come on, Eleanor. We're done here. They walked out, passing the colorful children's artwork on the walls, looking like gray ghosts fading into the mist. I waited until their car, the leased Rolls-Royce, peeled out of the parking lot. Then I collapsed onto the waiting bench. My legs gave out. Ms. Gable came around the desk and put a hand on my shoulder. Are you okay? No, I whispered. But I will be. Lily came down from her classroom a few minutes later. She saw my face and ran to me. Did they come? She asked, her voice trembling. I hugged her so hard I thought I might crush her. They came. And I sent them away. They aren't coming back, Lily. Never again. Promise. I promise. We walked out to the car. The sun was shining. It was a normal Tuesday for everyone else, but for us, the world had changed. The storm had broken. But I knew this wasn't the end. A cornered animal bites. And my parents were about to lose their home. I checked my phone. A text from Jessica. You think you're so smart? Wait until you see what happens next. You just started a war you can't win. I looked at the text and deleted it. She was wrong. I had already won. I just had to survive the cleanup. The 2 weeks following the incident at the school were the longest of my life. I lived in a state of hypervigilance. I checked my locks 3 times a night. I flinched every time a car slowed down in front of our house. I kept expecting the police, or a lawsuit, or my father breaking down my door. But silence, as it turns out, is often louder than screaming. The first domino fell on a Thursday. I know this because Aunt Renee texted me. Renee had become my unauthorized mole inside the family implosion. She didn't do it out of the goodness of her heart. I think she just loved the drama. But information is power, so I didn't block her. Her text was a simple photo. It was a picture of a certified mail envelope sitting on my parents' marble entryway table. The return address was Sterling and Associates. The caption read, "The bomb just landed. Your dad is drinking scotch at 10 a.m. That envelope contained the notice of removal. According to Mr. Sterling, who emailed me updates with the emotional detachment of a surgeon, the timeline was strict. My parents had 30 days to vacate the property. 30 days to pack up 40 years of pretension. 30 days to find a new stage to perform on, because this theater was closing down. I expected them to fight. I expected a drawn-out court battle. But here is the thing about bullies, they are often cowards when stripped of their armor. And their armor was the money. Without access to the trust funds to pay for high-powered attorneys, they were toothless. They tried to contest it, of course. My father went to 3 different firms. But the video was damning, and Grandma Elena's amendment was ironclad. No lawyer would take the case on contingency when the evidence of their breach of fiduciary duty was so blatant. Then came the phone call. It wasn't my father this time. It was my mother. She called from a number I didn't recognize, probably a burner phone or a neighbor's, knowing I had blocked her main line. I answered, expecting rage. Instead, I got something far more unsettling, martyrdom. "Victoria," she wept. Her voice sounded thin, fragile. "How can you do this? We're your parents. We're old people. You're putting us on the street." I sat at my kitchen counter, watching Lily do her homework. She was using a text-to-speech program on her iPad, laughing at something the computer voice said. She looked happy. "Safe. I'm not putting you on the street, Mom," I said, keeping my voice steady. "You have savings. You have your pensions. You just don't have Grandma's money anymore. We have a lifestyle," she shrieked, the fragility cracking instantly. "Do you know what people are saying? Do you know the humiliation? The club membership, the car, we can't maintain it without the stipend." "Then don't," I said. "Sell the lease. Cancel the membership. Live like normal people." "Normal people." She spat the word like it was a slur. "We are the Vances. We are not normal people. And Jessica, oh God, Jessica," she trailed off into sobbing. "What about Jessica?" I asked. "She won't help us, Victoria. She won't take us in." I nearly dropped the phone. This was the twist I hadn't seen coming, though I should have. Here is the thing about raising a golden child, you teach them that they are the center of the universe. You teach them that their comfort is more important than anyone else's feelings. You teach them to discard anything that isn't perfect. And right now, my parents weren't perfect. They were a liability. Aunt Renee filled in the details later that night. Apparently, the day after they got the eviction notice, my parents went to Jessica's sprawling McMansion. They assumed, naturally, that the daughter they had celebrated, the one who inherited the genius genes, would open her doors. They expected the guest suite. They expected sympathy. Instead, Jessica met them in the driveway. She didn't even let them inside. According to Renee, Jessica told them that Mark was worried about his reputation. The video of the anniversary dinner was circulating in their social circle. People were whispering. Mark's hedge fund clients were asking if his in-laws were actually broke fraudsters who bullied disabled children. "We can't have that energy around Chloe," Jessica had told them, standing in front of her Porsche. "It's too traumatic for her. And honestly, Mom, you guys really messed up. I can't be associated with this mess until it blows over." She turned them away. The daughter they had groomed to be their masterpiece looked at their tragedy, and saw only an inconvenience to her social standing. It was poetic justice so pure it almost hurt to witness. The day the movers came was a rainy Tuesday. I didn't go. I didn't want to see it. But I heard the Rolls-Royce was returned to the dealership 3 days prior. My father tried to claim it was a voluntary exchange, but everyone knew. The repo man doesn't care about your legacy. The house went on the market the following week. It was priced to sell. Because of the trust structure, I didn't have to do anything. Mr. Sterling handled the listing. I just saw it pop up on Zillow. Stunning estate, motivated seller. It sold in 3 months for $1.2 million. The closing was the final nail in the coffin. The proceeds didn't go to my parents. They didn't pass go. They didn't collect $200. The money went straight into 2 irrevocable subtrusts. One for Chloe. And one for Lily. 50-50. Just as Grandma Elena intended. The money for Lily is locked up until she's 25, with provisions for education and health. It changed everything for us. I didn't quit my job, I like my work, but the crushing weight of anxiety lifted. I could afford the specialized tutoring Lily needed. I could afford a better car than my beat-up Honda. I could afford to breathe. My parents moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in a complex near the highway. It's not a bad place. It's clean. It's safe. It's exactly the kind of place they used to sneer at when we drove past it. They are alone there. No galas. No microphones. No audience. Just 2 people and the echo of their own choices. A few months after the sale, I was cleaning out some boxes in our garage and found an old photo album. I opened it to a picture of me and Jessica as kids. My mom was holding Jessica, beaming. I was standing a few feet away, looking at the grass. I realized then that I wasn't angry anymore. The rage that had fueled me at the anniversary party had burned itself out, leaving behind a quiet sadness. I was sad for the little girl in the photo. I was sad that she spent so long trying to buy love that wasn't for sale. But mostly, I was relieved. I walked back into the house. Lily was sitting at the dining table. She had her specialized reading overlays out, colored plastic sheets that helped stop the letters from moving. She was reading a graphic novel. "Mom," she yelled without looking up. "Did you know that Percy Jackson has dyslexia too?" I did know that, I smiled, leaning against the doorframe. "It's a hero trait." She looked up, her eyes bright. "Yeah. A hero trait." She wasn't scared anymore. She wasn't asking if she was stupid. She was identifying with demigods. That night, I sent one final email to Mr. Sterling. "Thank you. For everything." He replied 5 minutes later. "Your grandmother would be proud. The file is closed. We were free." Time has a funny way of clarifying things. When you're in the middle of the storm, all you see is wind and rain. It's only when you look back from the shore, years later, that you see the path of destruction and the new growth that came after. It has been 4 years since the night I stood up in the crystal ballroom. Lily is 16 now. She's learning to drive, which is terrifying for entirely different reasons than family drama. Last week, I sat in an auditorium again. But this time, the air didn't feel thin. It felt electric. It was the Regional Student Art Showcase. Lily had entered a piece she'd been working on for months. It was a mixed-media sculpture, twisted wire, old book pages, and vibrant glass shards. She called it the Decoder. When they announced the winner of the mixed-media category, and I heard Lily Vance, I didn't stay seated. I jumped up. I cheered. I embarrassed her, just a little bit, the way a proud mom is supposed to. She walked up to the stage. She wasn't wearing a designer dress paid for by a trust fund to buy her status. She was wearing ripped jeans and a blazer she thrifted and painted herself. She took the microphone. Her hands were steady. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was strong. I used to hate words. They moved around on me. They made me feel small. But I learned that if the words don't work, you can speak in other languages. You can speak in wire and glass and color. This is for my mom, who taught me that different isn't broken. The applause was genuine. It wasn't polite clapping for a wealthy donor's granddaughter. It was real. I looked around the room. There was no Rolls-Royce in the parking lot. There was no champagne. Just punch and cookies. And it was perfect. I haven't seen my parents in 4 years. I hear about them, though. Aunt Renee still sends the occasional update, though I've stopped replying. Apparently, the apartment is too small. Apparently, the neighbors are loud. My father spends his days posting long, rambling rants on Facebook about loyalty and family values. He tells anyone who will listen that his daughter stole his inheritance, that he was the victim of a legal loophole. Most people scroll past. The friends who used to drink his scotch and laugh at his jokes. They stopped calling the moment the money dried up. It turns out, they liked the country club membership, not the man. My mother has tried to reach out to Jessica a few times. Jessica sends them a fruit basket on Christmas. She never visits. She's too busy managing Chloe's equestrian career, and making sure her own social standing remains untarnished. It's a lonely ending for them. But it's the ending they wrote, page by page, insult by insult. Sometimes, late at night, I think about Grandma Elena. I think about the foresight she had. She didn't just leave us money. She left us a shield. She knew that the only way to break the cycle of abuse was to cut off the supply. She knew that as long as they held the purse strings, they would hold the whip. By triggering that clause, I didn't just take their house. I took their weapon. Lily and I aren't living in a mansion. We live in a nice townhouse with a small garden. The trust pays for her tutoring, her art supplies, and will pay for her college. The rest of our lives, we build ourselves. I look at Lily now, laughing with her friends, confident in her skin, and I know I made the right choice. It cost me my parents. It cost me my sister. It cost me the illusion of a happy big family. But it saved my daughter. And if I had to go back to that ballroom, with the sweating glass of wine in my hand and the fear choking my throat, knowing everything I know now, I would stand up sooner. We need to talk about what happened here, because this isn't just a story about a bad anniversary party. It's a story about the difference between control and love. My parents didn't love us, they loved the version of us that made them look good. They loved the golden child who won trophies. They loved the legacy. When Lily didn't fit that mold because of her dyslexia, they didn't try to help her, they tried to hide her. They viewed her difference as a defect that lowered their stock value. This is a trap so many families fall into. We confuse obedience with respect. We confuse performance with worthiness. The biggest lesson I learned is that you cannot buy your way out of toxicity. You cannot, good girl, your way into being respected by people who need you to be small so they can feel big. My grandmother knew this. She knew that sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is set a hard boundary. The trigger clause wasn't just a legal trick, it was a moral line in the sand. It said, you can be rich or you can be cruel, but you cannot be both on my dime. I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt like you were performing for affection in your own family? Have you ever held your tongue to keep the peace, even when it was hurting you? If you made it this far, I want to thank you. It wasn't easy to relive this, but it's healing to share it. Here is what I want you to do. If you believe that every child deserves to be celebrated for who they are, not just what they achieve, please type good in the comments below. Or, if you have a moment, tell me, what is the one boundary you wish you had set sooner in your life? Your stories help me. They remind me that we aren't alone. We are all just trying to break the cycles that hold us back. Thank you for listening. Thank you for standing with me. And remember, heart guard up.